The day they kicked me out of my father's house, I walked away with one suitcase, a quiet heart, and a secret they never saw coming. They thought I had nothing. No money, no power, no place to go. But what they didn't know was that I had been the one holding everything together all along. I paid their rent. I kept the lights on. I covered my stepsister's school fees while they called me worthless. And when they told me to leave, at the request of the same girl whose education I was secretly paying for, I didn't beg. I didn't cry. I simply stopped paying. That was the moment the house they were so proud of began to crumble. The power went out. The school called. The lies they told started falling apart. And me? I didn't just survive. I rebuilt everything without them. This isn't a story about revenge. It's a story about truth. About what happens when the one you underestimate the most is the one who is keeping everything afloat. They thought I had nothing. But I was the storm they never saw coming. My name is Alina. I'm 24 years old, and this is the story of how I lost my home and found my power. It all started the day we buried my father. I remember the sky was gray, the wind cold, and the silence heavy. My dad had been the only person who truly cared about me in that house. He raised me after my real mom died when I was a baby. A few years later, he married Paula, my stepmom, and she brought her daughter, Lacey, into our lives. At first, things were okay. But after my dad passed away, everything changed. The day after the funeral, Paula didn't even look me in the eye. She sat at the kitchen table sipping coffee, like it was just another day. Lacey was scrolling through her phone, acting bored, like nothing had happened. I was the one doing all the work. I cleaned the house, cooked dinner, and even managed the bills, without them knowing I was secretly paying everything with the 2 jobs I had. My dad had left some money, but it didn't last long. Paula didn't work, and Lacey was still in school. They never asked where the money came from. They just assumed the lights would stay on and the fridge would stay full. But I didn't mind. My father had asked me once during his final days, "Look after them, Alina, just until they find their way." So I did. I worked part-time at a bookstore during the day and cleaned offices at night. I saved every penny I could. I paid Lacey's school fees out of my own account, and I kept up with the rent and utilities too. I never told them. Maybe I was scared of being called dramatic. Maybe I was just tired. But slowly things got colder at home. Paula became short-tempered, always giving me orders. Lacey ignored me like I was the maid. I tried to stay quiet, but one morning, it all changed. Paula stood in front of the doorway with her arms crossed. "I think it's time you left, Alina," she said. I blinked. "What?" "You've been living here long enough," she said. "Lacey told me you've been disrespectful. This house isn't your responsibility anymore. You should pack your things." I felt like the floor had dropped out from under me. After everything I had done for them, they wanted me gone? I didn't say a word. I went to my room, packed one bag, and walked out the front door with tears in my eyes. They didn't even say goodbye. But what they didn't know was, I had stopped paying everything that very morning. No more rent. No more power bill. No more school fees. I didn't owe them anything anymore. Let's just say what happened next, they never saw it coming. It had only been 2 days since I left that house. I was staying with my friend Jasmine in her tiny apartment. It wasn't much, just 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, and a little pull-out couch, but it felt like peace. No yelling. No cold glares. No walking on eggshells. Just quiet. Warm. Safe. The first night there, I slept for 10 hours straight. It was the first real sleep I'd had in months. Jasmine made us pancakes the next morning, and as we ate, I scrolled through my phone. That's when I saw it. Lacey had posted on her story. "Ugh, no Wi-Fi. No power. What is this, the Stone Age?" I actually laughed out loud. It had begun. You see, before I left, I went into all my online accounts and turned off every single automatic payment, the rent, the electric, the water, even the school tuition. Everything was in my name, not Paula's. I had been using my own card to keep the house running. They never paid a dime. Not even once. Now they were living in the house, clueless as to why everything was falling apart. By the second day, my phone rang. It was Paula. I let it go to voicemail. She didn't leave a message. Later that afternoon, I got another call. This time, it was the school. I picked up. Hi, this is Mrs. Romero from Eastwood High School. We're calling about Lacey's outstanding tuition. We attempted to charge the usual card, but it was declined. I stayed quiet. She won't be able to attend classes starting next week unless payment is made, she continued gently. Do you know if someone else will be handling her account? I took a deep breath. I no longer live with them, I said, and I won't be paying anything further. There was a long pause. Then the woman said, I understand. Thank you for letting us know. After I hung up, I stared at the wall for a moment. I should have felt guilty, but I didn't. The next few days were oddly quiet. No more calls. No more texts. Just silence. But then Jasmine showed me something that made my blood boil. She had been scrolling through Facebook when she said, Alina, you need to see this. It was a post from Paula. She had written a long status, full of lies. My daughter and I are going through a tough time. After my husband died, someone we trusted abandoned us and left us in debt. Our power is out, the school is harassing us, and people are turning their backs on us. If anyone can help us with donations or support, please reach out. And underneath, dozens of comments. Oh no, praying for you. You're so strong, Paula. Can't believe someone would do that to you. I could barely read the rest. My stomach twisted with anger. They had the nerve to call me the one who abandoned them? No one knew the truth, that I had been the one holding up the entire house, that I had worked myself sick just to keep food in their fridge and her daughter in school, that I hadn't asked for a thank you, just a little respect. Instead, they painted me as the villain. For a moment, I wanted to write a long post, to drop screenshots, bank receipts, school invoices, but I stopped myself. No, not yet. I had something better in mind. Let them dig their own hole a little deeper. That same night, Jasmine and I sat together, eating takeout on the couch. You okay? She asked. I nodded slowly. Yeah. Actually, I'm thinking of starting fresh. I've been working so hard for people who don't even care. What if I built something just for me? She smiled. Now that's the Alina I know. I opened my laptop. The first thing I did, I registered a business name. Starting a business wasn't something I had ever planned. But after years of working 2 jobs and stretching every dollar, I had skills no one really knew about: budgeting, organization, helping classmates with college applications, and tutoring. I just never thought of them as something valuable before. That night, with Jasmine cheering me on, I created a website. Simple. Clean. Just a few pages offering virtual tutoring, resume editing, and basic budgeting help for students. I called it Steady Steps. Within 3 days, I had my first client. By the end of the week, I had 5. It wasn't just the money that made me feel different, it was the way people respected me. They paid me on time. They thanked me. They left kind reviews. I felt useful, not used. Meanwhile, Paula's lies were catching up to her. Someone on Facebook finally asked, "Didn't your stepdaughter pay Lacey's school fees?" I thought she worked full-time. Others started commenting too. Small things. Wait, wasn't the electric bill in Alina's name? That's when Paula started deleting comments. But it was too late. I decided it was time. I posted one message. Nothing dramatic. No insults. Just truth. After my father died, I continued to support the household quietly. I worked 2 jobs and paid every bill, including my stepsister's private school tuition. Last week, I was kicked out of the house. Since then, I've stopped covering the costs. I wish them peace, but I will no longer carry the weight alone. Thank you. I attached screenshots, redacted for privacy, but clear enough to prove I wasn't lying. Then I put my phone down and went to bed. The next morning, I woke up to over 100 comments. Most were supportive. Some were angry at Paula for lying. A few were from people I hadn't heard from in years, apologizing for assuming the worst. But the best part? A message from the school board. They had seen the post and thanked me for clarifying. Apparently, Paula had been threatening legal action against the school, blaming them for humiliating her daughter. Now they had proof of who really paid and who didn't. That afternoon, Jasmine hugged me tightly and said, "You didn't just clear your name. You burned the whole lie down." By the end of that week, Paula and Lacey's world began to collapse, and not because of me. The truth had started to spread through our town like wildfire. People who had once brought them meals after my father's funeral were now turning away. No more sympathy. No more donations. No more fake tears. I even heard through Jasmine's cousin, who worked at a local bank, that Paula's account had been flagged for overdraft after multiple unpaid rent notices and loan delays. Apparently, she had maxed out her credit card trying to keep up appearances after I left. But the real chaos began when the landlord showed up. He posted a bright orange eviction notice on their door. Lacey had the nerve to post a crying selfie on social media, begging for help again. "Somebody please help us. We're being kicked out and we did nothing wrong." Except this time no one believed her. The most unexpected part? My aunt reached out. My dad's sister. We weren't close, not because of a fight, but just because she lived far away and didn't visit much. She called me and said, "Alina, I had no idea what you were going through. Your father would be so proud of you. I wish I'd been there for you sooner." She even offered to invest in my business. I was speechless. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about healing. I was finally being seen for who I really was. Meanwhile, Lacey was expelled from her school after the tuition debt piled up. I felt bad for her, just a little. She was still a teenager, but she had made her choices. She had lied about me, kicked me out of my father's house, and watched as her mother destroyed everything. They thought I was weak. They thought I'd crawl back. But instead I was rising. One morning, I passed by the old house on the way to Jasmine's office. It looked empty. Windows dark. Grass overgrown. A for sale sign on the front lawn. That house used to feel like a prison. Now it looked like what it always had been, hollow. And I didn't even feel sad. I felt free. A few months passed, and life finally felt steady. I moved out of Jasmine's apartment and into my own small studio. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. I paid for it with money I earned from my business. My tutoring service was growing fast, and I even hired a part-time assistant to help with emails and scheduling. For the first time in my life, I wasn't surviving. I was living. Then one afternoon, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something told me to pick up. "Hi, is this Alina?" a soft voice asked. "My name is Mr. Dalton. I'm an attorney. Your father left behind something for you. It's time we talked about it." I met him the next day in a quiet office with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves. He handed me an envelope and smiled gently. "Your father left this with instructions. He wanted it opened only if you ever moved out on your own." Inside was a letter. In my father's handwriting. "My sweet Alina, I don't know when you'll read this, but if you are, it means you finally chose yourself. I'm proud of you. You've always given more than you had, always loved more than you received. Enclosed is a trust fund. It's not huge, but it's enough to help you start fresh on your terms. You're stronger than you know. Love always, Dad." My hands trembled as I held the letter to my chest. The lawyer slid a second envelope toward me. Inside, a certified check. Enough to fully fund my business for a year. Enough to move to a better place. Enough to never worry about anyone else's bills again. I cried the whole way home, but they weren't sad tears. They were healing. In the months that followed, I rebranded my business, built a professional website, and started teaching free financial literacy workshops for girls aging out of foster care. My name began showing up in local news articles, community posts, even on school boards. And one evening, after giving a talk at a youth event, a young girl asked me quietly, "How did you learn to be so strong?" I smiled at her and said, "Because I once lived in a house where I was invisible, and I promised myself I'd never disappear again." Paula and Lacey, they moved to another town. Last I heard, Paula was trying to rent out a room online and begging for donations again. But now people knew better. They had burned every bridge, including the one I built for them with my own hands. I ended up framing my father's letter and hanging it in my home office. It sits beside the nameplate for my company. Steady Steps, built from the ground up. And every time I look at it, I remember this. They tried to break me, but instead, I became someone they couldn't touch.